The Philadelphia Eagles came into their matchup against the Dallas Cowboys with everything looking under control. They built a 21-point lead, and at that moment, it seemed like the game was theirs to lose. Jalen Hurts, as always, delivered his message of accountability after the game, telling his teammates to own their mistakes, to use the loss as motivation, and to stay united. His words were steady, confident, and delivered with the kind of authority that has defined his leadership since he first arrived in the league. Yet, for all the power of Hurts' voice and the clarity of his message, it feels like Philadelphia has been stuck in this cycle for too long. The Eagles say the right things after every collapse, but the repetition has begun to reveal something more troubling. A team that keeps talking about accountability without fixing the underlying problems that continue to derail them. When you look at the numbers, the picture becomes painfully clear. The Eagles racked up 14 penalties for 96 yards, the highest total in 4 seasons, many of them coming on plays that should never happen in November. Pre-snap mistakes, missed alignments, and mental errors that require no special talent to avoid kept cropping up in crucial moments, eroding the precision and control that once defined this team. Hurts himself acknowledged this post-game, pointing out that the team failed in the basics, in the little things that should be automatic for a roster filled with veteran talent. It is this lack of focus and discipline that continues to show up every time the game tightens, a slow unraveling that has been building over the season. The collapse against Dallas was more than just a poor performance. It was a complete erosion of structure and control. After leading 21-0, the Eagles were outgained 473 to 143 in total yards over the remainder of the game. Their offense managed only 107 yards in the second half and never crossed the Cowboys' 38-yard line. Over 41 minutes of play, they ran 7 drives without producing a single point. This was not a fluke. It was the natural result of an offense that becomes timid when the pressure rises, of play calling that turns conservative, and of a defense that loses spacing and composure. Dallas simply executed sharper football, exposing the gaps in Philadelphia's ability to sustain control, to remain disciplined, and to capitalize on their opportunities. Saquon Barkley's struggles only intensified the story. The running back, once dominant and the offensive player of the year after leading the league with over 2,000 rushing yards, found himself limited to 22 yards on 10 carries. Barkley admitted that he was in a bit of a funk, but his teammates, including all-pro offensive tackle Jordan Mailata, pushed back against that idea, pointing out that the struggles were a collective failure, not just an individual slump. Mailata emphasized that the offensive line must execute better, that the run game depends on every block, and until they perform consistently, Barkley's potential cannot translate into meaningful production on the field. Hurts also defended his running back after a costly fumble, pointing out that there were multiple opportunities in the game where the team could have prevented the situation. His defense of Barkley reflected his leadership and his belief in the talent around him. But leadership alone cannot fix structural and strategic weaknesses. What made this loss particularly concerning was not just the collapse itself, but the way it exposed deeper coaching issues. Philadelphia's preparation against the Cowboys' 5-man defensive fronts was clearly inadequate. Guard Landon Dickerson admitted after the game that the Eagles had not properly prepared for these defensive looks, despite them being a recurring theme throughout Dallas season. This oversight put the offense at a disadvantage from the first snap, creating tough situations for players like Barkley and ultimately undermining trust in the coaching staff. While the Eagles' star players consistently step up and hold themselves accountable, the same cannot always be said for the scheming and planning behind the scenes. Dallas' game plan was meticulously prepared to exploit weaknesses in Philadelphia's alignment, and the Eagles' failure to anticipate these adjustments demonstrated a lack of detailed preparation that cannot happen at the highest level of professional football. The game revealed that the Eagles' issues go beyond individual talent or leadership speeches. The team is struggling to maintain the discipline, structure, and execution necessary to compete against well-prepared opponents. Every penalty, every misalignment, every mental lapse in critical moments chips away at their ability to control the game. The offense, once a model of precision, is now reactive and inconsistent, often failing to sustain drives or protect the football. The defense, meanwhile, looks unprepared for even straightforward challenges, allowing explosive plays and failing to adjust when necessary. It is a team caught between talent and execution, between what it could be and what it currently shows on the field. Even as Hurts stands at the podium delivering his familiar message of ownership and unity, the repetition of these words begins to ring hollow. The team's leadership is not in question, but leadership cannot substitute for preparation and discipline. Without a recalibration of focus and structure, the Eagles are at risk of repeating these same mistakes again and again. The collapse against Dallas is a symptom of a deeper problem, one that encompasses mental lapses, penalties, poor game planning, and a running game that cannot carry the offense when it matters most. Every turnover, every failed drive, every penalty contributes to a narrative that is increasingly difficult to ignore. This is a team capable of greatness, but constantly sabotaging itself through errors that are entirely avoidable. The challenge for Philadelphia now is to reconcile talent with execution, to turn Hurts' words into measurable results on the field. Accountability is a necessary component, but it is not sufficient. The team must address its structural flaws, correct its preparation errors, and ensure that the fundamentals are executed flawlessly. Until the Eagles can translate leadership into consistent performance, the cycle of collapses will continue to define their season, overshadowing the potential of players like Hurts and Barkley. Every missed block, every mental error, every penalty is a reminder that talent alone does not win games. Discipline, focus, and preparation are just as crucial. The Eagles may be led by some of the league's most capable players, but unless the team's execution matches its talent, the losses will keep piling up, and the phrases of accountability will remain words rather than solutions. As the Eagles look ahead to their matchup against the Chicago Bears, the stakes could not be higher. After the collapse against Dallas, there is a sense of urgency surrounding Philadelphia's locker room, a pressure to not only regroup, but to prove that the mistakes of the past do not define their season. Jalen Hurts remains at the center of this narrative, the voice of leadership and accountability, but even his steady presence cannot mask the structural cracks that have emerged over recent weeks. For a team with championship aspirations, it is not enough to simply acknowledge mistakes. The Eagles must actively correct them, transforming awareness into execution and ensuring that errors like missed assignments, pre-snap penalties, and failed blocks are no longer recurring problems. Saquon Barkley's situation exemplifies the complexity of the team's current struggles. Last season, he was a juggernaut, leading the league in rushing and proving himself one of the most dynamic playmakers in the game. This year, however, his performance has been inconsistent, partly due to his own admitted funk, but more significantly because of the surrounding context. An offensive line that has struggled to maintain cohesion, an offensive scheme that has shown vulnerabilities, and defensive fronts that exploit any misstep. Barkley's yards have dwindled, and while he continues to put in the effort, the production is not matching his talent or the expectations set by last year's extraordinary season. Jordan Mailata's comments post-game underscore a crucial truth. The running game cannot succeed in isolation. It is a collective effort, reliant on the execution of every block and every assignment. Until the offensive line and the entire offense can perform at the level expected of an elite team, Barkley's talent will be limited in its impact, no matter how hard he works. In many ways, the Eagles' struggles reflect a tension between talent and execution that is more psychological than physical. The roster has proven it can dominate at times, and the players are capable of extraordinary performances, but the mental mistakes, penalties, and lapses in focus erode that potential. It is a team that can score quickly, build a substantial lead, and yet lose control in ways that feel both shocking and familiar. Every week brings new reminders that the margin for error in the NFL is razor thin, and Philadelphia's inability to control the small details is the difference between victory and defeat. The collapse against Dallas was a harsh reminder of that reality. Even with a 21-point advantage, the team could not maintain discipline, could not execute basic blocks and alignments, and could not protect their lead. Head coach Nick Sirianni and his staff face intense scrutiny as a result. The admission that the Eagles were unprepared for Dallas five-man fronts points to a larger issue. Planning and preparation at the highest level of professional football cannot be overlooked, and small oversights can have outsized consequences. Defensive alignments and schemes must be anticipated, film must be studied meticulously, and adjustments must be made in real time. When these elements fail, even the most talented roster is vulnerable. The Cowboys' ability to exploit these weaknesses was not a stroke of luck. It was the result of preparation, discipline, and execution. Philadelphia, by contrast, appeared reactive, constantly trying to respond to situations rather than proactively controlling them. This dynamic is deeply concerning for a team that aims to compete at the top of the NFC. Offensive struggles compounded defensive vulnerabilities throughout the game. Philadelphia's inability to sustain drives put constant pressure on a defense that was already tasked with stopping a potent Dallas offense. With the offense unable to maintain possession or produce points, the defense was left exposed, forced to defend extended drives and high-pressure situations without adequate rest. Over the final 41 minutes, the Eagles' offense ran 7 drives without scoring, a statistic that highlights both the breakdown in execution and the psychological toll of repeated failure. Each empty drive chipped away at the team's confidence. Each missed opportunity a reminder that preparation and focus are as crucial as talent. As the team moves forward, the challenge is to reconcile these issues before they become a recurring pattern. The matchup against Chicago presents an opportunity for Philadelphia to prove that the mistakes against Dallas were anomalies rather than the new norm. The offensive line must regain its footing, executing blocks, and maintaining cohesion to give Barkley space and time to create. Hurts must continue to lead, but the players surrounding him must convert his words into tangible results on the field. The defensive unit, which allowed over 470 yards against Dallas, must tighten its gaps, maintain spacing, and prevent explosive plays. Every phase of the game will require heightened focus, discipline, and execution, because at this stage of the season, there is no room for mental errors or preventable mistakes. Philadelphia's identity as a team has long been tied to precision, control, and the ability to dominate both sides of the ball. This season, however, cracks have emerged, revealing a team that sometimes struggles to maintain structure under pressure. Hurts' leadership is not in question. His clarity, confidence, and steady demeanor have kept the locker room united even during periods of struggle. But leadership without execution is insufficient. The Eagles must transform potential into performance, ensuring that every play is executed to the highest standard, that penalties are minimized, and that lapses in focus become a rarity rather than a recurring pattern. Or get to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Rumors are swirling in the league after whispers emerge that the Philadelphia Eagles have made what could be a game-changing move on defense. Sources close to team circles suggest that the Eagles have secured the services of a high-profile pass rusher, a player whose reputation alone sends shockwave through locker rooms and front offices across the NFL. While official confirmations remain absent, insiders hint that this could be the piece that transforms Philadelphia's defensive identity overnight. The buzz is that this new acquisition is not just any pass rusher. He's the kind of player who forces quarterbacks in uncomfortable positions, alters game plans, and commands attention the moment he steps on the field. Analysts are already speculating that opposing offensive coordinators will need to rethink their strategies entirely, potentially reshaping matchups for the season. Fans are, naturally, in a frenzy, imagining the impact this player could have on the Eagles' pass rush and overall defensive schemes. What makes this rumor even juicier is the timing. The Eagles, known for their calculated moves in recent years, are reportedly aiming to assemble a defense that can dominate the trenches and keep high-octane offenses in check. The chatter suggests that internal sources are convinced this player's arrival will create a domino effect, elevating everyone around him, from edge defenders to linebackers, and even the secondary. Social media is ablaze with speculation, memes, and even mock highlight reels, as supporters anticipate a shift in momentum for a team that has consistently sought defensive supremacy. Some insiders caution that while the deal seems imminent, the details remain hazy, fueling endless debate among fans and pundits alike. Contract terms, positional adjustments, and potential chemistry with existing stars are all hot topics, with some believing this could mark the start of a new defensive era in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, rival teams are reportedly taking notice, quietly preparing to counter what might be the most talked-about acquisition of the year. Whether this pass rusher turns the Eagles into an unstoppable force remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. The NFL rumor mill is in overdrive, and the city of Philadelphia could be on the verge of witnessing a defensive transformation that no one saw coming. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.